Hi everyone, it's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Monday. This is going to be another day where I'm going to do two weather videos because we have a widespread severe weather outbreak in the Northeast for later today into this evening, and I want to cover that separately from the two tropical systems that we're dealing with here in the middle of the month of June, which is really unusual. And even more unusual is the fact that we actually may have a tropical storm that's skimming along and just north of the coast of South America, heading for the Southern Windward Islands. We just don't see that sort of thing in this time of year. Maybe if this were August or September, yeah, but not now. But indeed, we do have a tropical disturbance that looks like it may be at borderline tropical depression or tropical storm. The Hurricane Center's got a new policy now where they're issuing advisories on these strong tropical disturbances that look like they are going to become tropical storms at any time. I'm not sure what the technical reasons are that the criteria in terms of why this was not made a tropical depression at this point. Maybe on the satellite they can't close off the center, or they partially close it off. I'm not sure, but this is something I'll figure out later on. But in the meantime, this system actually for this time of year is fairly well developed, and they have tropical storm warnings up for the Windward Islands. And this is the Hurricane Center's forecast track, which makes total sense based on the model guidance that I've looked at, moving it into the southeastern Caribbean, making it a tropical storm during today, crossing the windwards, going near or just north of Aruba, and then gradually weakening as it moves westward. That would also make sense given that this time of year, the environment, actually for a good chunk of the hurricane season, the winds in the eastern Caribbean oftentimes tend to be strong westerly aloft, and that creates a rather hostile shearing environment for tropical systems in the eastern Caribbean. The conditions usually get much more favorable as they head into the west and northwest Caribbean, which the remnants may wind up doing later on this week, but for the time being, we're just dealing with this tropical storm situation for the windwards, and it's no threat to the United States, to the East Coast or the Gulf Coast. So we'll show you here. Here are the forecast tracks. There actually is one renegade track on one model that wants to take it northwestward over the Dominican Republic and into the Bahamas. But the cluster of the models is mostly on a west-northwest course across the Caribbean and eventually into the western Caribbean, staying fairly far south of 15 degrees north. And again, I think based on what is going on in the upper atmosphere, that would make sense. And in terms of intensity, just about all the models have this as a tropical storm shortly and through the next 60 hours or so, 72 hours. And then some of them weaken it below tropical storm strength. There are a couple that take it up, a couple of models that actually take it up close to hurricane strength out around day 5. But they're the outliers. Most of them lie in the middle. Now here's the system in the northwest Caribbean, which we have a broad low here that's producing gales, but you can see it's a bit disorganized. When you compare the visible satellite picture of the first system, it's got a much more circular look to it. You can pick out a circulation center where there is some thunderstorms developing around it, and probably stronger winds closer to the center. But when we look at the one in the northwest Caribbean, you can see it's elongated north-south. There's probably some kind of broad low sitting right along the coast here in the northeastern part of the Yucatan Peninsula. But we're starting to see a little bit of thunderstorm activity develop in that general vicinity. But I'm thinking that it'll probably have to wait for that low center to emerge into the Gulf of Mexico before we start to see this thing really organizing and becoming into something that looks more like a tropical storm. Meantime, here are the forecast tracks from the various hurricane models. Very tight cluster now from coastal Texas on the west side of the envelope to eastern Louisiana on the east side of that envelope. But they're all clustered fairly tight here. So it looks like there'll be some kind of tropical storm moving toward the northwestern corner of the Gulf of Mexico over the next 3 days. And when we look at the intensity guidance on this system, also all of these bring this to tropical storm strength. Some of them bring it up to about 55 knots. And then we have the system gradually, once it moves inland, of course, all the guidance brings this inland. All the models weaken the intensity, which would make sense. So it appears that, at least based on what we're looking at, we're going to have two named storms, Brett and Cindy, before this is all said and done. I just want to show you here on the GFS model. Here's the GFS's view with the low going into the central Louisiana coast, and then gradually that moisture gets drawn up with the next cold front into the Ohio Valley and northeast, into parts of the northeast this coming weekend. But that's for down the road. I'll show you what this looks like on the NAM. The NAM kind of looks like what the European is doing, and let me just back it up here. You can see the broadness of the isobars on the NAM model when it comes offshore, and then suddenly you have a clustered low that develops and rotates around and gets fairly tight as it gets toward the Texas coast and moves inland. This is sort of what the European does on its surface map. I don't have the radar presentation like I do with the NAM model, but just because it's just not available publicly. But just trust me on the fact that it looks like the NAM. And one of the keys, as we've been saying all along with this in terms of the upper air, is the fact that we do have. Let me just back this up here. You can see that there's you have this ridge off the east coast right here. You've got this ridge in the west, and there's this troughing in the middle, this upper trough that's shown here. That's the one that's swinging eastward, producing the severe weather, and there's a weakness that extends down right into the Gulf of Mexico. So this system has an alleyway to move northwestward. The forecast issue is the fact of which of these ridges, or both of them for that matter, are they stronger over time? I mean, there is some sense when you look at the NAM that the NAM model tries to build both the ridge in the west and the ridge off the east coast to some degree, which kind of forces this system a little bit more westward than what the GFS has. And the European is on this idea as well. The GFS has perhaps slightly less ridging on both sides here, leaving more of a weakness in between and allowing for a track that goes further north. So these are the the puzzle pieces here, and we will take a look at what the Hurricane Center does later today. I suspect that the system in the east of the Windward Islands will become a tropical storm at some point today, and the one in the Northwest Caribbean either later today or tonight, as it becomes a little better organized once it goes into the Gulf of Mexico. And look for a second weather video to come up later on as I address the severe weather threat in the Northeast. We'll also do a quick update on the tropics if we have any new information regarding either system. And you can check out all the latest website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. Angry Ben has New York City covered in the severe weather threat for New York City on nycweathernow.com. And thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I have noticed I picked up a few new subscribers over the last couple of days. Welcome aboard. Be sure to leave some comments, and love to hear your opinions about things. Are there any questions you have? I do get involved in the conversation, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions and take a look at whatever your observations are regarding weather and climate. And thank you. Thank you very much. Hit the little red subscribe button, and you can subscribe for free. It doesn't cost you a dime. Have a great day.